Pick your race, choose your class, roll the dice, and come out of the closet to play a game in the basement. Welcome to Sam's Podcast, where we will take you on a journey through the wonderful queer world of Dungeons & Dragons. But first, what is D&D? Well, it's primarily a story. Your dungeon master creates a world, and you and the other players populate it. Your choices and your dice rolls guide you, and everyone gets the chance to be someone they're not, or be who they truly are. For a game with more rulebooks than most religions, it is surprisingly freeing, especially to young queer kids who are leaving home for the first time, a home where they may have to wear a mask. In a world of high fantasy, players can shrug off the expectations of a heteronormative society and get the chance to relax in a setting where they won't be judged. Judgment has always been something I'm afraid of. For years, I've done my best to squash any feeling of otherness, which resulted in me feeling like an outsider without knowing why. Back at my high school, even something as small as joining the JROTC led to insinuations, which I denied at the time, but now turn out to be true. By the time I realized I was bi, I didn't think it would be okay to say it, so I just didn't. I continued on as I always did, living in a cage I had only just begun to see the bars of. But then I got to UNC, and the Monday in Week of Welcome changed my life. The SAGA, our school's queer group, hosted a lunch and pride flag painting event, and despite my misgivings, I went. When I arrived at the event, I had no idea my whole world would change. Sitting across the table from me, sketching with one hand and enjoying a donut with another, was a young man who would, for me and nearly a dozen others, introduce a whole new way of life. By the end of that day, I had not only befriended the boy, Chase, but also a lovely young artist named Elsie, a Saga board member named Lauren, and a transfer student called Vex. We'd all bonded, not just over our various queerness, but also our interest in D&D. Lauren connected us all to a queer group chat, and Chase and Vex got to work planning an interest meeting for D&D. A study room was booked in a library, and next thing I knew, I was among a group of 24 people that I didn't have to lie to. For many of us, being freshmen who weren't out of the closet at home, this was a rare opportunity to try living our truths. In my case, I talk a great game, but I'm actually pretty bad in social situations. I second guess every decision I make, and I never had the confidence to ask out a girl I liked. But my D&D character, she isn't like me. As Seraphina the pirate, I am strong-willed, bold, brave, brash, and I never have to second guess. I don't have to worry about high expectations and critical commentary. I can focus on being heard and being seen in a way I've always been afraid to express. Without the fantastical environment of D&D, I would never have that kind of opportunity. And now it's time for the main event. I have here with me two of my friends and fellow Dungeons & Dragons players, and I'm going to do a little interview. So, hi guys.
Howdy.
Hello.
Please introduce yourselves and then explain what introduced you to Dungeons & Dragons in the first place.
I'm Chase.
And I'm Elsie.
What got me into Dungeons & Dragons was a lifelong interest in playing pretend.
You know, that's really relatable. I think it was either that and one day I was at the bookstore and I was bored with my friend and we said, we're going to buy the Dungeons & Dragons starter pack, and even though there's only two of us, we're going to figure out how to play just with two of us. And we did, and it was kind of a disaster, but it was still really fun, and I eventually made all of my friends start playing.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So, please explain what drew you both into the queer D&D group that we're both part of, or that we're all part of.
I think you were talking about it first, right? With a couple people?
That's right. At the Campus Y at a Saga event, we met up. I was talking to a friend by the name of Vexalia. We were talking about Critical Role and Dungeons & Dragons, and quite a few people in the room conglomerated around and just started talking about how we should start a queer D&D group.
Yeah, I heard you guys talking, I think, and I was just like there and didn't have any buddies with me, and I was just painting my little flag, and I was like, oh, finally, a chance to make some friends.
Yeah, that was really awesome getting to meet you guys, and just start talking about something that we all had an interest in,
It feels like so long ago.
right? I can't believe it's only been a few months.
It was especially interesting to find a group that we could be comfortable in. That was especially important. Just all members of the queer community that know what everyone's about. No one will do anything extremely uncomfortable because we're all on the same page.
Yeah. So, how has Dungeons and Dragons allowed you to explore your identity and express yourself, specifically your queer identity?
This is kind of a hard question because like the characters I've played as so far just haven't like aligned with my identity like at all. It's more like me kind of stepping out of like how I express like my like identity as a lesbian, but like being someone else and like allowing myself to be in someone else's shoes and explore how they would I don't know, like just kind of live and interact in this fantastical society and stuff, and while still like allowing myself to be like to put aspects of my personality in my characters or like little things in my stories, which is nice.
Yeah, especially with the resurgence of Dungeons and Dragons into popular media with several live shows and podcasts, such as The Adventure Zone and Critical Role. Critical Role especially interested me because of a bisexual character in the show that was openly so and had relationships with both male and female characters. It was nice to see representation and being able to both detach myself from the just implications and societal pressures but at the same time be able to express myself in a realistic sense despite being in a fantasy world is really what let me open up in Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, and like the fact that like you can just be like a queer character and that who goes through struggles and stuff, but none of that relates to their identity is like really refreshing, because so often in media you see like gay characters who like the main like struggle that they face is just the fact that they are gay, and that just gets exhausting after a while.
It's just their only character point.
Yeah, and it's so nice because not only can you be like a queer character in a world that like doesn't care at all that you're queer, you can also be like a fucking wizard or something. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So, I got one more question for you guys. What is your favorite part of D&D?
Oh, I wasn't expecting this question.
My favorite part of Dungeons and Dragons is the bonds and trust formed within a small group of people sitting around a table and telling a cooperative story.
That's really sweet.
That's so sweet.
I kind of like how I don't know. I think one of my favorite things is that the story isn't like only yours. Like, because I like to write comics and stuff like that, but like when D&D, like you make a story and then you can't really predict how it goes because your characters are people sitting across from you and they're alive and they make their own decisions, and you're just kind of like, oh boy, guess I get to see where this leads, and it becomes so much more than like anything you could create by yourself.
And the dice are really pretty.
Yeah, that too.
Oh yeah,
They're
gotta
sparkly.
love those dice. I gotta say, my favorite part of D&D has been getting to hang out with you guys so much, and just getting to have an excuse to just sit in a room with all my friends and just play pretend. Honestly, it's just really great.
Yeah, that too. Like when you're little, no one bats an eye if you play pretend and stuff like that. Now we have to like conform to society. Okay.
I want to hit people with swords.
Exactly. Exactly.
Don't we all?
You get to do whatever you want in D&D. It's great.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Sam.
All right. And I will see you guys at our next D&D session.
Heck yeah.
Expect it.
That's gonna be